Your salary doesn't define your worth. And in order to understand this, you need to have lived long enough to have gained enough confidence to cross the common sense and the condition that have been imposed on you, because we live in a materialistic world, and people tend to exaggerate the value of money, and it might not be your case, because first of all, not all jobs bring the same amount of money, and especially if you are prone to create and live more or less freely, then let's face it, you're not going to make a lot of money. But that doesn't mean that you're not valuable. Another thing to take into consideration is the fact that you might choose not to have too much money, because when you gain some materialistic things in this life, a lot of times you need to be aggressive. And I'm not saying this in a negative way necessarily. By aggressiveness, I also mean energy. But more often than not, you need to be very active. And it might not be your thing. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of it, but it's just not your type of personality. There are exceptions, but in order to earn a lot, you have to step over others. It doesn't mean that you cross the boundaries, but unless you have a job that earns very well because it's extremely difficult or very demanding, you're not going to succeed in amassing a fortune. You're not going to be able even to raise your living bar above the regular standard. Of course, there are exceptions, and sometimes people who are successful in producing art, YouTube is an example, they also earn a great deal of money, but they are very few, and we all know the YouTube grind and how difficult it is to gather some views and to entertain, because the competition is very high. Besides, you might also not want to invest your time in gaining too much money, because you have to be committed, and it's not really worth it unless you have a family and you need to provide for them. That's a noble cause. I'm not following this path, but I respect those who do. Like, hats down to that. Maybe you just prefer to stay idless and watch the sun, because you should earn money in order to be happy and comfortable. But if you are miserable and then you are working over hours just to be I'm more unhappy than you were. What's the point? It's absurd. And we see this a lot on social media. People tend to frown or despise those who are happy with what they have. Recently, I just read an article actually about Rockefeller. I think it was the one who created the oil company. And he said that, long story short, those who are content with their lives, they don't go up on the social ladder and they don't get rich. And that comfort is the destroyer of talent and ambition. And I think that's a very negative way to look at life, because you are ending in a loop, and it is senseless to do that unless you are this personality type, unless you have so much energy that you have to channel it outwardly, and you need to act, then that's for you. But that's not the case with everyone. Besides, even though we might hear otherwise from people such as Andrew Tate and similar gurus who propagate the message that you need to have money in order to survive, and it's better to be a stressed winner than a happy loser. An idea with which I do not agree. It's not easy to become rich, even if you put all your effort into it. A lot of people who are on top now have had rich parents, or at least above average, who were able to give them the opportunity to rise. Of course, there are different cases, and that doesn't mean that you cannot change your initial status in a way or another. But our circumstances are often overlooked, and we tend to stress too much the importance of the individual. Surely, your mindset and your vision and your will and strength of character prevail in this life. But it doesn't mean that everybody is able to achieve miracles, even if I try. It's not guaranteed, even though we would like to believe that if we work hard and don't give up, we will make it. Well, we might not, and that's not a bad thing. That should also stoke you to enjoy the present moment and to quit the rat race, because it's hard, and you might lose your health in the process. It's very tricky, and it needs I believe, a different video in order to be fully understood, and I need to give it more thought. Another aspect to be taken into consideration is the Buddhist simple concept that we don't need as many things that we are influenced to believe that we do. That's consumerism for you, the dark side of capitalism, if I may say so. It doesn't mean that material things cannot bring you comfort or a certain enthusiasm and pleasure. For example, I'm always thrilled when I buy anything, especially if it's a technical one, like relating to technology, like a new microphone or a new phone or a new CPU for my PC, or maybe a graphic card, although these ones are very expensive, so they are on a dream level, so to speak, and you need to sell your kidney in order to get one high-end GPU. Anyway, minimalism is perhaps the cheat code to happiness and to getting by in life without being a slave to a given job. Now, it doesn't mean that working is bad per se, or that it kills necessarily your soul, although it might do frequently. But that's also another aspect that we need to talk about in depth and in a prolonged manner, not now. And we already have enough. If, for example, you compare our level of life to the one that was common about 50 years ago, we have made a lot of progress. I mean, even the TVs that we have now are better than the ones that we could have acquired 10 years ago. When it comes to me, I have an OLED whose diagonal is 55 inch, an LG A1, a very nice TV. Not top tier, but still, it's good. And let's say 10 years ago, I should have spent about $3,000 for such a piece of art, because it's a piece of art. It looks very well, and the image provided is very accurate and rich, although a little bit dim, but it's okay for my taste. And I imagine when we will be like 10 years from now, so we can content ourselves with less, because after the first adrenaline hit that you have, it just becomes ordinary, and you're not enjoying it as much as you did in the beginning. So we need to take that into account and to know that at the end of the day, everything is relying on our ability to get stimulated, which can get tired and refuse us the pleasure that we are so addictingly seeking. So yeah, this is what I wanted to say about the job. Of course, there are exceptions, and if you are good at whatever you are doing, you are still going to earn more money than the average person, but that takes time, and I wouldn't say dedication, but just persistence and patience. So sometimes it's true that the salary defines your worth, but more often than not, it's a trick that the system pulls over in order to control us, and it's more active when it comes to men, because we are the providers in a traditional way, and so it can take away your pride if you have to confess that you are not making a lot of money, especially in the eyes of females. I know that I might sound misogynistic here. There are exceptions, but it may occur, and I'm sure that a lot of men have stumbled upon it in a lesser or greater way, you know. And I believe that the importance to have a job as a male is higher than as a woman, because you are judged via these lenses, and if you abstract yourself and detach from the matrix and your conditioning, you are still categorized and viewed by the way of this narrow and materialistic lenses that prioritizes numbers over emotion and dreaming and spirituality. And on this note, I will end this video, and I'll see you on the next one.